I found out an interesting fact here as I was just perusing my social medias during the break, just trying to pick up something new. And by the way, Alexander Nikishin still has not signed with the Canes. Y'all remember the movie The Sandlot, right? The Sandlot, it's coming of age tale. Boy loses Babe Ruth ball over the fence. There's a giant dog. A bunch of boys play baseball, and it culminates with kind of one of the worst radio calls in history of a home run at Dodger Stadium. It wasn't good. But anyway, The National is this big card show that takes place every year. A lot of card collectors, baseball cards, sports cards, memorabilia, all these things. They show up at The National, and they have a lot of memorabilia. And what The Sandlot, there are photos of the Sandlot guys everywhere. Matter of fact, I think there's like a YouTube with a YouTube movie from the guy who plays Smalls with like Topanga from Boy Meets World, actually about baseball and about them being adult coaches. And there's all this memorabilia signed by the cast of The Sandlot. And there's one particular one where it's all the boys standing together, just one big photo, and everyone's signed, including with their nicknames, with the exception of Benny the Jet. And apparently the actor who played Benny the Jet does not sign. He will not sign cards. He doesn't sign photographs. He doesn't sign anything, not with his real name and certainly not with the Jet nickname. He's moved out and lives out on the West Coast. He was a child actor for a long time, moved to the West Coast, became a firefighter, and says he has put that part of his life behind him. So he no longer signs and doesn't sign with his name. And apparently he's been offered a lot of money to do so, which would make it, incredibly valuable. So if you ever find something out there Sandlot related from Benny the Jet Rodriguez, it's not real because he doesn't sign. It's just crazy. I mean, you respect it, right? You respect the decision, but you'll never find anything in the wild from Benny the Jet. You'll just have to live through him through the movie. And again, the really bad radio call of the play at the end of the movie. Sorry, did I spoil The Sandlot? I've already spoiled 2 kids' movies today, Ratatouille and The Sandlot. Sorry. All right, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, good friend of the program. Little check-in with the Wolfpack here on this Wednesday. The editor of Pack Power 247, which, by the way, is running an epic deal, 60% off your annual Pack Power subscription. It's Cory Smith. Good morning, Cory.
Good morning, man. I'm not trying to ruin any children's movies this morning, I promise.
You can. Are the kids in the car?
No,
okay.
They're not. They're already at school, so
okay,
we're good. We're good.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because you could ruin some now that they're not within shouting distance. Can we ruin rumors that Darian Williams is coming back to NC State, or do you actually get to close the book on that, even though apparently he likes to eat food in Raleigh with former teammates?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily in the cards. I mean, I think the more realistic one potentially might be Vinal Lubin. That's somebody that they're obviously targeting. I think we've reported on that a couple times, but it's definitely somebody that they're looking at. Darian Williams, look, man, the relationships are still there, and if something does fall through, the option to go to the transfer portal, which I believe he potentially would if the lawsuit goes through, then, maybe NC State would look into trying to bring him back, but I don't necessarily think that's in the cards for them.
Do they have the money, though, to go after players like that or guys that have sued, like, Malik Renaud, for example, at Miami? We know, big power forward, presence, big bruiser. He did not end the transfer portal. He's got a contract with Orlando, but that's not stopping any of these guys. You remember the name Cade Tyson, former ACC guy? A guy who revitalized his outside shot. Is there an opportunity for State to go after some of these guys? You did mention Van Allen Lubin, but is there even the money to do so? And does Justin Gainey even want to play that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to try to fundraise the money if you have the option to, right? You're going to go out there and say, look, guys, we have the option to try to bring Van Allen Lubin back. He says he wants to come. If he says he wants to come, then, you go out to donors and you say, look, we have a chance to make a huge addition here. Is there a chance to do this? And see if you can get it. I don't know that they necessarily have it right now. You spent a lot of your money on your starting 5 and then, a couple rotational pieces that you really wanted to retain or bring in. But they have a 13-man roster right now, and, Justin Gainey has said he's happy to stick with that. I think the question mark is, do you feel like Vinal Lubin, somebody that is a very good rebounder, especially on the offensive end of the floor, and gets a lot of putbacks easily off of that, like, is that a guy that you feel like, all right, man, if I go out there and go talk to NC State donors and they really want to bring this guy in, maybe that's a selling point right there.
So how is that relationship then? Cory Smith, editor of Pac Power 247, joining us here on Next Up. How we know that a lot of these cases, it is a relationship business. It may not be recruiting as much as anymore, as opposed to how guys were treated. And Van Allen Lubin's an interesting name for sure, but I remember his nickname behind circles was Van Allen Wade. What keeps like Will Wade from throwing a truck ton of money at a Van Allen Lubin? Like, was that relationship good enough here at State for him to even, give it a thought? Like, you know what? I had it pretty good in Raleigh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question mark is going to be, what kind of role would he play at LSU would be the biggest one, because obviously I think he considers himself more of a center and wants to be able to do all the things that he did last season. And, yes, he had a close relationship with Will Wade initially, but look, man, the way that Wade exited and the way that all that went down, it severed a lot of ties with former players and, the administration at NC State, obviously. And a lot of it kind of soured things across the country on Will Wade as well. But I think if there's one player that maybe would look to do that, it's a guy that's gone to 4 different institutions over 4 years and clearly doesn't mind going to places where it might rub people the wrong way, because he went from UNC to NC State. So as much as we like to think, he doesn't want to go and upset NC State people, well, he did that at UNC and didn't seem to mind too much. So it's all going to come down to what's the fit, is the money right, and are you willing to play for that coach? And I think, clearly Will Wade put him in a situation last year where he could thrive. It was just maybe not the right fit for the team overall, because you just didn't have size around him at all.
Cory Smith, editor of Pac Power 247, joining us here Next Up here on 99.9 The Fan. Paul Ihander here. Max Goren is here as well. All right, let's move to football. It's easy to talk about basketball and what ifs and not ifs, but what's on the field right now are football teams, and you've had a chance to talk with both coordinators through Pac Power. What's your sense? Is the offense ahead or is the defensive ahead in terms of development right now?
I think right now on the offensive end of the end of the football, I think they feel pretty confident when it comes to the new faces that are coming in. Obviously, C.J. Bailey coming back. I haven't heard a ton about the offensive line and where they feel like that's set up, especially from a starter standpoint. We know what it's going to look like, but how good it's going to be is the question mark right now. As far as the weapons around him, they really like Kurt Roper really likes a lot of the new pieces they brought in. Talking about Davion Dozier, he said he's a deep threat guy. Talking about JoJo Trader, they feel like he's a guy that has a lot more left in the tank than what he showed in Miami. And then Duke Scott, Davion Goss, they feel like is a really good, 1-2 punch. C.J. Bailey talked about that last week too. On the defensive side of the football, they talked a really big game about a lot of these guys that have come in, whether it's Harvey Dyson or King Mack. I know King Mack, just a ton of confidence is oozing out of him. And then talking to Ronnie Royal yesterday, really sounds like a lot of these guys are stepping up. The biggest question mark is going to be, can some of these younger players, especially across the defensive line, Chase Vaughn, Josiah Victor, Isaiah Shirley is not young, but a guy that's unproven, hasn't started in his career. So can those guys hold up, and can the new faces across the rest of the front seven hold up? Because, defensive backfield-wise, you have a lot of players that have proven themselves. In the defensive front, you really don't at this point.
All right, so let's have a conversation about quarterback, shall we? C.J. Bailey seriously coming back, another year in the same system, going to help him, certainly his professional prospects as well. Feels like there's kind of if the foot isn't out the door yet, he's certainly inching his toes across that line. So how important, or what's the sense of importance that you're getting from this offensive coordinator and this offensive staff to develop Will Wilson into that possibility that, hey, if CJ goes, we need to make sure that there's a viable option here, a veteran option for the Wolfpack moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he talked about it yesterday. Kurt Roper talked about, the arm talent that Will Wilson does have. He hasn't shown it yet at this point, but he developed. It sounds like in the weight room he got bigger, stronger as well. I think he squatted 515 this offseason, which is like typically what your running backs are going to squat. So pretty good numbers for him. But, they talked about it. The fact that he does need to develop, he needs to be ready for, at least a QB battle next season, because as we know, coming into 2027 too, Gunnar Rivers happens to be signed, which, if you haven't heard of him, the son of Philip Rivers.
Who?
And his name is Gunnar. Like, could you ask for a more quarterback name?
Yep.
But, a guy that comes in, really good size, good frame, great arm strength, throws just like his dad, a little more mobility than his dad, and maybe Philip will be a little bit upset hearing that. But, a kid that really just, again, I talked about King Mac oozing confidence. This is a kid that just, you talk to him on the phone, and he's like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to do, exactly what I want to accomplish, and wants to finish up this high school season. He's also going to be able to enroll early. So that QB battle, if C.J. Bailey does ultimately go to the NFL after this coming up season, that QB battle is going to start in February when they get on the field, or in January when they start summer workouts, because Gunnar Rivers is going to be in there with both Will Wilson and Tad Hudson.
Cory, as you and your crew at Pack Power 247 have eyes on practices and you talk to coordinators and have chats with athletes and things, you have the sense, obviously, that there's optimism when it comes to within camp. There's certainly that kind of the ascension that you have seen as players have gotten older and grown within this program. But expectations are certainly going to be different. Are we expecting to see, and this is what I think fans want to know because you've got eyes on it again, are we expecting to see a few different twists when it comes to offensive play calling and certainly defensive play calling, where you have questions about guys who, are rolling into really their first game within this system?
Yeah, I think on the offensive side of the football, there's going to be some slight changes. I don't know that you're going to rely, even though Kurt Roper talked about it yesterday, that, you're not going to rely as heavily on the tight end position. You're probably going to utilize Preston Douglas and Vander Plug, two guys that, as of right now, it sounds like are going to be more of the move tight end targets. But, you don't have a Justin Jolie that's a proven commodity. So those guys have got to earn their role not only early on, but, once you get actually out on the football field, once the bullets start flying and you're playing in those games. And then, again, on the defensive side of the football, yeah, there's going to have to be a lot of changes. And I think you go back to last season, they talked about it. They feel like there's more comfortability. There's more of an addition that you've brought in of like, all right, these are the guys that we wanted in our system. They fit DJ Elliott's system. Guys like Harvey Dyson that come in, King Mac, that you feel like, all right, these guys fit a little bit more of what we want to do. Now it's just actually going out there and implementing it. And, I think on the defensive side of the football is going to be the bigger question mark, because you just don't have that. You don't have that guy that you're like, all right, that's the C.J. Bailey of this side of the football going into the season, that not only is his leadership there, but the skill really backs it up.
Yeah, motor, for sure. Defense, they've always had one of those guys, and emergent things will emerge here, I'm sure, over the next couple of weeks. Cory Smith joining us here, editor, Pack Power 247, running a 60% off annual deal right now for VIP status, annual VIP membership. Cory, always great to check in with you, friend, and enjoy the weekend.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me as always, Paul.
All right, Cory Smith, Pack Power 247. Check the writings out. He always does a little coffee with Cory, and lots of good things to read, lots of good insight. And again, eyes when it comes to practicing as we get ready for games here at the end of the month. End of this month, we play counting college football, and that should excite you.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. Star running back Bijan Robinson and the Atlanta Falcons agreed to terms on a 3-year contract extension yesterday that will make him the highest paid running back in NFL history. Robinson's extension is worth up to $75 million, with $51 million guaranteed. After a lengthy weather delay, Charlotte FC put on a dominant performance in their first game of the 2026 Leagues Cup in the Queen City last night, shutting out Pumas of Liga MX 3-0. Their Leagues Cup Phase 1 continues on Friday night against Atlas FC. The Durham Bulls play a doubleheader in Charlotte tonight after last night's contest with the Knights was postponed due to rain. Bulls coverage is available on 620 AM Buzz Sports Radio, 99.9 FM HD2, and WRAL News Plus, with first pitch of Game 1 scheduled for 5:05 p.m. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
Let's save college sports, shall we? Well, we got to say football first. That's how it works. Vote could come tomorrow on the Senate floor. They'll send it to the House. It may happen Friday, could happen Saturday, but they're still working on it. Politicians, have support of the two biggest conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, as they deal with this bipartisan law that addresses college sports, the Protect College Sports Act. Nick Saban, legend, Alabama football coach. I have a friend who named their dog Saban. That's how legendary he is. Has put a little letter of support along with former Administrator Gordon G., who I'm not sure I would want to attach my name to anything Gordon G. did after, he literally called Ohio State not playing the Little Sisters of the Poor, which he had to apologize for to the actual Little Sisters of the Poor. But I'm like, hey, choose your words wisely, right? Nick Saban, he's all on board with it. He's all on board of it. Some parts he doesn't like, some parts he does like, but Nick Saban, who was part of the early conversations of trying to figure out how to get whatever it is that needs to get in line with college sports, says this one's the best that we've got. And you've heard me say this before. The best we've got is better than nothing in many cases. What this does, though, and let's not kid ourselves, right? This is about protecting college football. This is not the Protect College Sports Act. This is the Protect College Football Act. Because you do not think that capping the SEC and Big Ten at 19 schools, right? It allows them to expand. It allows all the power conferences to expand to 19 teams if they wanted to, which means there's room for more schools to move up group of 6 or more movement between the power conferences, which I believe is what the SEC and Big Ten are actually looking for. They're looking just to kind of be a little bit more powerful with a few more household brands. They are not doing household brands outside of college football. The draw isn't to bring in and I'm just picking it out of the thin air, Georgia Tech gymnastics. Okay? They're going to grab Georgia Tech because they want Georgia Tech football. Not because they want Georgia Tech track and field. Not because they want Georgia Tech archery. It's because they want football.
Yeah.
This is the Protect College Football Act.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever been under any false illusion that it was anything else. I mean, if you look at the revenue generated by college football versus basically every other sport combined, save for maybe for men's college basketball because of March Madness and how much money that makes via TV revenue and everything, and that's only going to go up, I assume, this year with the expansion and the expanded opening round with 76 teams now going to make the tournament. But I mean, all the money. I mean, this is why all the craziness and politics and just it's all off-field stuff. That's why we're constantly talking about it in the offseason, because that's where the money is in college football. I don't know. It's yesterday. I think there was a whole bunch of organizations and groups that have signed a petition or had sent a letter or something opposing the Protect College Sports Act now. And for the longest time, it felt like the Big Ten and the SEC were opposed, and now they're supporting it. It's just it's getting a little bit hard to follow, I think, for an average fan like myself included. And we talk about this on the Almost Daily, and I still feel like I'm kind of behind the 8 ball on everything that's happening, but. In theory, some of this stuff should help curtail the major predominant issues in college sports and transfers and NIL and everything, but you just know some other new issue is going to pop up around the corner.
Someone's going to sue. Someone will sue. There'll be more legal challenges or whatever it is. Oh, you're restricting this, you're restricting that. And the idea behind getting some government regulation in this is it allows college athletics to operate at a slightly different level than professional level. There is revenue sharing now. The House settlement guaranteed $21 million in revenue sharing. Under this new act, it would actually increase to $48 million. There are no group of sixes who have $48 million to work with. They don't. They don't have that money. Many of them barely have the $20 million to group. And remember, it's up to that number. It's not a hard and fast number. It's up to that number. There are a group of sixes that are like, yeah, we're going to do about 5. We might do about 8. And that's if they can actually get, for example, a jersey patch sewn on. If you're at Wyoming, the jersey patch deal that Wyoming signed is under $1 million for 5 years. That's nothing. That's going to pay for a small amount of retention or maybe increase training table offerings. That's all you're trying to do. Increase some of the things. We are back to, it's not just money, we're back to the war of facilities again, right? the back end stuff, the amount of nutritionists, the amount of financial helpers you have behind scenes, the amount of people able to strike NIL deals within your athletic department. You know, we talk about content, but we also talk about relevancy too. And I want to go to a program that allows me to be relevant as a college athlete. That is just as important as the cash, because your brand is also worth money as well. This just provides framework. That's all we can hope for at this point. But the rich will certainly stay rich under this deal.